Good morning, everyone. Welcome to join the library event, AImagine Hub Library in Intelligent Research Tools series. I'm Wallace from the HKBU Library, and I'm happy to be your host and host our second workshop about the consensus.app. Before we begin, please type a quick message in the chat to confirm if you can see and hear me clearly. Yes, okay, thank you. Thank you. All right, so different from yesterday's session, yesterday we have a colleague from ITO to introduce our own HKBU AI platform. So today we are happy to welcome back Eric Olson, the co-founder and CEO of Consensus.app. This is actually Eric's second visit with us. He previously conducted a Zoom demonstration in last year, February, which you can still find the recording on our HKBU Library YouTube channel. So our library subscribed to Consensus quite not actually quite a long time ago, but more than 1 year. AI technology advanced very rapidly, and Consensus has introduced many updates over the past year. So today, we invite Eric here again. He will walk us through the Consensus key features, whether no matter you are completely new to the Consensus or you're already an experienced user, I believe you'll learn something new from Eric. So I'm going to stop here, and I'd like to welcome Eric, and over to you, Eric.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the introduction, Wallace. I'm excited to be back here. As Wallace mentioned, this is my second time getting the opportunity to present to you all, and very excited to be doing so. As Wallace mentioned, by way of introduction, I'm Eric Olson. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Consensus. We are a US-based startup located all across the US. I'm based in Boston, Massachusetts. Typically, I'm actually in San Francisco right now, so the time zones work out a little bit better. It's only 7 p.m. for me right now, so not too bad. But we're a team of about 15 folks across the United States, distributed around. And what we build is Consensus. What Consensus is, in a sentence, is an AI search engine specifically for academic research papers. As far as what we're going to cover today, I'm going to start, I know there's going to be a mix of people here who have seen Consensus before, and then some of those who likely have not. So I'm really going to kind of tailor it to both audiences. I will start with a bit of an introduction and an overview of Consensus. So apologies if this is repetitive for you all, but then I will get into a quick product overview and some Consensus do's and don'ts, with a real focus on some of the new features that we have launched over the past year, as well as some features that even if you have used Consensus, maybe you haven't seen in all the nooks and crannies that we have functionality and features. My style as a startup is pretty informal, so I'll be kind of just talking conversationally. If you guys have any questions, feel free to send them in the chat, and I will get to them as it makes sense throughout the presentation, maybe some on the fly, and then I also will leave some time at the end to get to all of them in the chat. But feel free to just put them in there, and then I will get to them, whether that's in the middle of the talk or toward the end when I'm going through all of them. But very excited to be here again today, and why don't we get right into it? So Consensus is about a 2.5-year-old product. As Wallace mentioned, we've been working with HKBU for a little over a year now. We launched right around when ChatGPT launched in the winter of 2022. We're incredibly lucky that we've been able to grow quite rapidly and are used by folks all around the world. We're actually used by over 3 million people today from over 10,000 different universities worldwide. Many folks do just use us as individual users, where they're not so lucky as you all that the school will get them access to the tool, but then we do work with quite a few organizations across the world as well, ranging from nonprofit research organizations like the National Academy of Sciences here in the US to big giant universities like the University of Virginia and Hong Kong Baptist University. And then on the bottom, you'll see just a smattering of publications that Consensus has been featured in. We've been incredibly lucky to be a part of this this boom in AI products and being able to be featured as one of the notable use cases of applying this technology in hopefully a usable way. To quickly just address this with consensus and how it works with HKBU. Everyone here on the call, if you have an HKBU email address, you have full access to consensus via the university library. So if you have not accessed it before, it's very simple to get yourself set up. Simply go to this link here. It's consensus.app, APP. When you are going to hit that website, there'll be a prompt to create an account. All you'll have to do is create that free account with your HKBU email address, and you will immediately be able to get access to the license that your library has purchased. That's all there is to it. Simply sign up for a free consensus account with your HKBU email address, and it should take care of itself. If you do have issues, I'll call out. You can reach out to Wallace, and he'll help you out with that, and he'll reach out to me. And then on the bottom, you'll see some stats that we have from our usage at HKBU. We're incredibly proud of this. It's so awesome to see that we're used quite frequently from both students and faculty across HKBU. In fact, there's been over 3,500 consensus accounts created from HKBU users over the past year. The average HKBU account has about 42 searches on it, which I think is pretty incredible, considering there's obviously, some people have created an account and done one search and not come back. The fact that the average is 42 across 3,000 accounts is pretty incredible. That equates to over 130,000 queries into consensus from HKBU accounts. Also really incredible. And then on the right, one of the stats that I really like is that over 150 HKBU users have actually used consensus over 200 times in the past year. All of this is just really cool to see, and indicative of the awesome job that your library does in getting you guys equipped and set up with some of the best tools and research, and we're proud to be a part of a program like this. I saw that there's a note about poor connection. Can most people hear me okay? If you guys don't mind writing in the chat. Seems to be okay for most. Okay, I'll continue on unless I hear more. All right, so what is consensus trying to do? Again, what consensus is a search product with language models and AI in it to make the process of searching for research easier. What we're trying to solve for is to, just like that, make the process of searching easier. And unfortunately, the tools that we have today to search for academic research fall short on a variety of dimensions. So on your left, you have your general purpose consumer search and information discovery tools, your ChatGPTs, your Perplexities. They're wonderful for many things in our life, but they're simply not designed for the research process. They don't have the right database. They don't have the right functionality. They're not built for us to do real academic research. In the middle, you have your widely used free academic search tools, Google Scholar being the most notable. Well, I'm sure many of you have used Google Scholar. It hasn't changed in about a decade. It has many of its own problems. It hasn't adopted any of the awesome practices that we're seeing in our AI products in the left. And then library tools are great. I don't want to trash on them too much. I know you guys have subscriptions to those as well. But we typically hear from universities time and time again that they struggle with getting the organic adoption from the students in the way that sometimes they would hope. And what consensus is trying to do is bridge across all of those gaps and build a tool that is rigorous, built with real research in mind, that is ethical, responsible uses of AI, but it's also delightful, easy to use, intuitive in a way that will spur organic usage with students and with faculty, a product that people truly enjoy using and saves them lots of time and makes them more efficient. So again, you're going to hear me say this over and over again. What Consensus is a search engine for academic research that uses AI within it. I'll show the product more in a bit that will make this all make more sense. To just go one level deeper to give you all some important details about Consensus. So what is in Consensus? The starting point is a database of about 200 million academic research papers from Semantic Scholar database. This includes coverage in most of the highest impact Q1 journals that most people have have all probably heard of. But it is also important that we are not a subscription to any particular publication. So you're not getting, your access will still be handled by libraries' other subscriptions to publishers. You're using Consensus as a layer of search and high level analysis for the research, but it's not immediate access to all paywalled papers. Though we do have a subset of about 20 million fully open access papers within the product where you can access the PDF in the product itself. Go to the middle to talk about how the search works. I won't bore you all with super technical details. I'll try to explain it in a way that is simple. Think about it as a hybrid search that combines classic keyword searching, like you've all probably used in academic search products, as well as this AI-driven semantic search. And what that means is you can exact match in the product by searching by an author's name or a keyword or a journal title, like you're used to in academic products. But you can also search in the product with natural language and ask questions and type in more conversational prompts and commands, and we'll be able to handle that as well. So again, this whole idea of the best of both worlds, we're trying to combine the stability that you're used to with keyword searching with all this new awesome functionality that these AI models can help us with and making it more semantically relevant and conversational. And then on the right, to talk about how we use AI, the simplest way to think about it is AI that runs after a search of the literature is done. We first go looking for literature related to your query or request to consensus, and then we use AI models in a variety of different ways to synthesize and extract and summarize the papers that have been returned from your search. But everything will always be grounded in that search. Everything will have a citation behind it. Everything will be tied back to a real research paper because we start with a search of the literature and then use AI models to augment some of that high level analysis of the research papers. This will all make more sense when I open the product, I promise. And then to quickly talk about some of the high level, well, I'll get into some more nitty gritty use cases, but high level ways that people use our product. I mean, the simplest way to describe it is anytime you are searching for research, regardless of what the output is, that is where people come to use Consensus. So for students, the most simple use case, you're writing some type of work that needs to have citations or references into it. You can come to Consensus to help you find those references. If you are going deeper and doing a more formal literature review, that is probably our core use case for Consensus users, is doing a real lit review. But then another way that people do use this, you'll see this across both faculty and students, is think of it as like the get up to speed use case, this background research use case. Because of the ease of use of Consensus, because it gives you those quick summaries and insights, if you're looking to get up to speed on the topic, maybe you're doing in classroom learning or after a discussion, Consensus can be a great way using academic literature to get up to the speed on topics or subjects of interest. And then to quickly just say, the one difference we probably see with faculty the most is, yeah, they really use it a lot for that interdisciplinary background research use case. They're less likely to be doing the one-off finding a citation to put into a paper use case that a student might, but faculty get a lot of use as having a quick and easy to use tool for when they get one-off questions, they're in a discussion, or they're trying to get up to speed before some other types of works on a given subject or topic. And you'll see on the right some other smattering of universities that we work with, specifically in the US. All right, let's get in to the fun stuff. Nobody likes looking at slides. It's always better to go directly into the product itself. So we're going to go through some of these Consensus quote unquote do's. So these are things that we would encourage you to do with Consensus. I'm going to give you examples for each and highlight some features along the way. So first, the do that we're going to focus on is the ability to search with natural language. So I'm going to quickly change tabs here. Make sure you guys can all see this new tab. Wallace, I can see your face. Can you give me a thumbs up if you guys can see the new tab? Great. All right, so we're in the Consensus product, and you'll see I focused on this. We are a search engine at the core, so you'll be hit with this search box that you can put a query, prompt, or question into. So the use case we're talking about here is the ability to search with natural language. So I'm going to type in the question. We're going to say, what are the effects of ability grouping on childhood academic outcomes? I chose this because I remember writing a paper about this in college. I'm going to press search in consensus. And first, you'll see I'm going to actually quickly turn off this pro analysis section just to ground us all. And I'm going to go through these papers for a different use case where it's a little more pretient. But everything below the results tab are the papers that have been returned from your search. So this bolded text is the title of a research paper, and this gray text is an insight or answer that we've pulled out of that research paper related to your question. So each one of these tiles are the search results from your query. But that's not where the fun starts. So we'll go up top to our pro analysis section where you're getting a cohesive synthesis of the top 10 papers related to your search equipped with citations. So you'll see there's this long, nice synthesis that has the context of all the other papers and weaves together a narrative of what is this, what are the top 10 papers saying about the question. Obviously, importantly, all of this is equipped with where this AI model is pulling this information from. So every insight or sentence will have a citation next to it that references one of the papers returned from the search. If you click on this citation, it will take you directly to that paper that it references from its analysis. Additionally, if you want to directly click into this paper, you'll simply click this button and it will take you to a new page that will show you a preview of this research paper. So you are always one click away from getting into the paper or going down and seeing this paper tile right here. You'll see hopefully our models here have grouped this into useful themes across the research. What are multiple papers all saying? And make it into this nice consumable, what is the research saying to my question? What some of our users really like to do with this pro analysis section, this is a new feature that was not here the last time that I spoke to you all, is this copy pro analysis section button. If you click this tab here, you can actually copy this section equipped with inline citations and a references section directly below. If you want to put this as a starting point to help jumpstart whatever written work it is you're doing, you will have your bibliography made with the papers from the search. And we make sure to put in this disclaimer so it's not being pawned off as work of somebody else's. Great. So hopefully here you see that with the ability to search with natural language, we found relevant papers and then use our powerful AI models to synthesize that research in a consumable way. All right. Next. Actually, I forgot. I'm going to show you another question with natural language. But one of the most fun ways to use consensus, we're going to still stay in this natural language use case, is to type in yes, no questions in consensus. So if you type in a yes, no question here in consensus, you'll see one of our flagship features called the consensus meter. So this is another set of AI models that if a yes, no question is asked, will look at the top 20 papers and tell you what side of the fence those papers lean toward to that question. What do they suggest the answer to that question is? And it will give you a summary of how many papers are in each school of thought. There's a lot of cool things now you can do with this set of responses. So first, if you simply want to just dig into particular sides of the fence, so pretend you're writing a paper and you're looking for contrasting evidence to a research question, you can come in and say, I only want papers that suggest no. If you scroll down, you'll see now the papers that are below are only papers that lean no toward this question. Again, think of this as a really quick and easy way to look at the sides of argumentation to a research question. Here, I'll go down where I filtered for yes, and you'll see that all the papers now are papers that suggest the answer to this question is yes and had positive findings. One of the other really cool things we've added to the consensus meter, this is a feature we launched. Wallace told me this is one of his favorite features. We added this to the product about a month or two ago. We call this our consensus meter snapshot. And this is a way to give additional nuance to this yes/no classification and look at each school of thought and give you details about the quality of the evidence within those schools of thought. So each school of thought will have a quick summary outlining, what are the types of studies within there. And then we have some summary statistics that say, what is the average publication date of the papers in this school of thought? How many of the studies in this school of thought are from meta-analysis, randomized controlled trials, or systematic reviews, what we call tier 1 studies? How many of them come from very high impact, high citation journals? So what is the average quartile of the journals? Q1 is being the best it can be, Q1 through 4. And then what is the total count of citations of all of those papers in each school of thought? Again, the idea of all of this is we're giving you a quick snapshot of the schools of thought across the research, but we want to give you an additional layer of nuance and detail that digs in to the rigor and the methodology of the papers below. And you'll see these little icons. This means that it was the quote unquote winner of one of these categories. So this, the yes camp had the papers that were most recently published. It had the most tier 1 studies and the highest average journal, where the no had the most total citations. Great. Saw a few questions go through. I'll see if any are worth touching on while I have this use case open. Can we export the citations? I'm glad you asked. That is coming with my next use case. So keep the search results and export the citations. I will get to that momentarily. All right, back to our presentation. So that was our use case talking about searching with natural language. Now we're going to search with keywords and show you how the experience can be a little bit different and focus on some of the things you can do on the papers that have been returned. And that's where we'll talk about some of these export actions that you can take, some of which are new features that we've launched in the last year. All right, back into our product. All right, I'm going to type in the keywords. Just doing a demo related to this topic, so it's top of mind, but type 2 diabetes, glucose monitoring. Uh-oh. All right, so again, I'm going to actually shut off this pro analysis section. We'll come back to that momentarily. So again, we're going to start with the papers that have been returned to this search. So again, to refresh, each one of these tiles is its own research paper. You have your title, you have an insight from this paper, AI generated, and then you have some associated metadata from that paper. Publish date, citation count, authors, publishing journal. First, you'll see there are some other things here present on each one of these tiles. So where it is relevant, we will also add some quality indicator tags to each of the papers. This is a set of AI models that look at what is the design of the study, and where it's a meta-analysis or a randomized control trial or a lit review, we'll add little tags to help give you an indicator of the study design of this paper. And for each, if you're unfamiliar with these classifications of studies, we give a short summary of what that means, why you potentially should care about it, and what that means relative to other study designs. Another way to learn more about the rigor and methodology of papers is by clicking this study snapshot button here on the gray text box. If you click this open, we have another set of AI models that will look into this paper and pull out specific study details about the paper. So in this case, we pulled out, who was this study done on? It was done on adults with type 2 diabetes. What was the sample size of the study? What was the methodology of the study? You'll see here the same as the randomized control trial tag here. We list out what outcomes were measured in this study. And then if we can find the results in the paper, we'll show what was the results that were found in this paper. Again, think about this as a way to augment your quick analysis of your search results. What would you be doing when you're scanning through the top 10 papers to a search? You're going to look at some basic details of the paper to understand if it's relevant. Does this fit what I'm looking for? And we try to help augment that process with AI models that make that process a little more delightful, a little less painful, and a little more time efficient. All right. Another thing you can do with the paper is these three buttons down here. So we call these our action buttons. For each paper, if you want to save this paper to the product, so I will show you how to export to an external reference manager. We do offer some very lightweight, simple reference management within Consensus. If you click Save this paper, you can create a new list that you're researching, create a new list, and go somewhere in there, the list is, but you can add your paper to the list that you created, and then you can go back to that list of papers. It's over here, list. You can see the paper that you added to that list and go back to save later. Search. Awesome. So that's how to save papers to Consensus and create your own research list. Additionally, in this little button down here, let's see if we can get a quick page refresh. That should do it. Wonderful. You can also click this button here, and it will auto-generate you a citation for the paper in the variety of different supported formats. And then lastly, to the questions from the chat, if you want to export these search results, you simply click this button here, and you can export it in the formats used, widely used for the external reference managers like EndNote and Zotero. Additionally, you can export into a .csv format if you want your papers in a spreadsheet. And to just explain this, what will be exported is all of the papers that are visible on this screen. So if you wanted to export more papers, you click the load more results, but it will start by exporting 10 papers from your list of search queries, from your search query. So this is where the export functionality lives. See if there's any more questions in the chat. Oh, great. Thank you, Wallace, for handling that. All right. I'm going to show you one more way to interact with the papers within Consensus. So if you see, when you're going through your results, you see this tag that says Ask Paper. So this is another new feature of Consensus. For papers that are fully open access, where we are able to parse the PDF, we'll apply this badge to the paper. If you click this portal, it should take you, okay, this one might not be working. We'll go to this one. Uh-oh. Our ask paper function might not be working. All right, I'll have to check with the engineering team on that. Doesn't seem like those are working. Let's see if I can find one that does work, or the feature is just down right now. Yes, it seems like this is down. Okay, we're going to skip the ask paper functionality. Ideally, what that would happen is a PDF would appear there, and you have the ability to ask questions of that PDF, and it gives you cited responses within that PDF. If I can get that back online on the call, I will make sure to share that. All right. Going back out of Consensus. So that covered the action buttons as well and our export. Now we're going to show another way to interact with Consensus. And I believe we were just rolling this out the last time that we met with HKBU, but we added the ability to add additional commands to your prompt to get pro-analysis to respond in flexible ways. So let me do an example of this. So we're going to go back to that first question that I asked. What are the effects of ability grouping on childhood academic outcomes. And now we're going to add a second command to this prompt and say, list out all of the pro and con cases in a table with the strengths of evidence listed. So again, if you think back to the way that I described consensus, there's a it is searching first, so it's going to go searching for papers related to this question. But you can be conversational with the product, and you can give additional context to ask for specific formats for our AI generated section. And one of our newest features is the ability to actually generate tables within this response. So I'm going to turn on the Pro filter, Pro tab, click this. Hopefully we'll see Pro Analysis generate us a nice table about this research question. There's our papers. Now Pro Analysis, great. So what you'll see is responded flexibly. It's given us a section about the pros of ability grouping and the cons of ability grouping with a column about the strength of evidence in each school or for each potential pro of this question. And like I mentioned previously, each one of these pros that it lists will always have a citation to the papers below that you can interact with, click on. Great. So show one more of these. So that's a really popular way that people have been using that ability to add more context, is to have it generate a structured response in a table. Another really popular way is to say something like draft me an outline, a possible literature review. And you'll see again, it will generate you back the format that is requested, equipped with citations before, not trying to automate work being done, but maybe be a jumping off point for how to start with an outline of a potential literature review on this subject. See a question in there about search history. Yes, if you open up this sidebar over here, you'll see your entire running search history that you can go back and reference later. This is also a new feature since we last talked. I'm really happy that somebody asked about this. Anytime you want, if you click this open, there will be a running list of all of your last queries that you can interact with and click. Additionally, another way that you can accomplish the same thing is if you click this, so there's the save button on the papers that I showed, but you can also save on the search level, and you can add your search to a list. And when you go back to your saved lists, you'll see, click into this, you'll see papers. So this is where your saved papers would be. But if you saved a search, it will actually save that search for you. You can go directly back into it. I'll show that one more time just so people saw that. If you click this button up here, you can add your search to one of your research lists. You could also add papers to. On the sidebar, click this folder, go into lists. This is the one that I saved it to, and you'll see that saved search that I just ran here. Really, really great question from the audience. Thank you. Awesome. Go back, just quickly show that again of that output of the outline. Quickly scroll through that so you can all see what it did. Apologies for all the tab switching. And then the last do in consensus that I'm going to show here, we've also seen significant updates to the product since we all last spoke, is the addition of many search filters that we have in the product. So go back to our product here. Type in, we're going to do a consensus meter use case, so it's nice and visually interesting to look at. I'm going to type in a natural language research question here, saying, does fish oil improve mood? So you'll see our pro analysis start to respond. Your cohesive synthesis of the research. And then if you look at the consensus meter, you'll see that the answer appears to be pretty mixed. Some papers find yes, some papers find no, some papers say possibly. But what we can do is if we pop open this filter tab, you'll see our set of search filters that you can apply to this search. So first, we have basic date filters. So first, why don't we put one, say, papers published since 2010. Additionally, we have the ability to exclude all preprints from your searches. And if you wanted to only look for open access papers, you could also flip that on and have it only search for open access papers. Additionally, you can search for citation counts over a certain amount. I'm going to leave these blank for now for the purpose of this use case, but just wanted to highlight all of the things that you can filter your searches by. But what we're going to do is we're going to pop open this methods section and pretend we're doing some biomedical research and we want to look for really strong study designs. So you can come in here and you can say, I only want randomized control trials. I only want them done on human subjects with a sample size over 10. So these are all details about the study that we can parse out that you can filter your searches by who the study was done on, how many people were involved, what was the duration of the study, and even further down, you can even filter by things like where was the study done and located, what domain of science is this covering, and some details about the journal and the quartile of impact that it comes from. For the purpose of this use case, I'm going to show you this one with recent papers that are randomized control trials that are done on humans with a relatively large sample size. We'll see if our results change. Not as much as I remembered it did. But still, you'll see that there's a shifting consensus. You'll see that it is a little bit more negative than it was previously, and that more rigorous study designs typically find the answer is no more often than it did previously with an unfiltered search. But hopefully that highlights the ways that you can use our fairly advanced search filters to filter search results for what you're looking for. All right. Now we're going to talk about some consensus. Actually, why don't I first look at the chat here? So David asked the question, how reliable is the meter's judgment? Is it possible to make a wrong judgment about an article? Really great question. And it's, I think, yeah, a good time to talk about this in general. So typically when people talk about AI products, they worry lots about hallucinations and inaccuracies. And there are two ways that people typically talk about hallucinations. They talk about them in the sense of something is trying to cite a source, and that source simply doesn't exist and is made up. This was the classic original way that people talked about hallucination with ChatGPT, where you asked it to say, cite your sources, and it would give you a link confidently, and that link wouldn't exist. That is why I emphasize search so much when I describe what consensus is, that we can't hallucinate in that way. Because everything runs a search first, every paper that we cite will be an actual paper. That paper will exist. It will never be a made-up source. Where we can still fall short, and we work really, really hard to not, is exactly what this gentleman had asked, is that can still AI models can misinterpret a paper and provide an inaccurate response. That's this other bucket of quote unquote hallucinations. We work really, really hard to make sure that it doesn't happen as much as possible. It still can happen. Rough judgment I'd use to rough heuristic when we do evals, think of it as about 95% accurate. That there are edge cases where we can be wrong, but we work really, really hard in making sure the models are as accurate as possible in making those predictions. We also do have guardrails in the product to try to protect against very common failure cases of these models. So to give you, without getting too far into the weeds, to give you an example, if a model is shown a paper that is completely irrelevant to a query and is asked to, what is the answer to this question using this source? That is where it is most likely to fill in gaps that don't exist. where the paper is irrelevant to the query and the model is being asked to use this source. So we build lots of guardrails in the product that say, only use these papers if it actually addresses this question. And if it doesn't, we don't even let our AI models make predictions. So when we run the consensus meter, we have a threshold that says this paper has to be directly answering this question before we're going to have it make a prediction. This reduces that probability of there being something inaccurate. But great question, doesn't mean we are infallible. All right, so quickly talk about some consensus don'ts. So I think first, just to be, might be obvious, but we are a product for academic research. We are not a general purpose consumer tool. So you should not come to consensus and act like you're talking to a chatbot that's just going to have a conversation, or sorry, that is willing to that, a product that is going to return you information about things that aren't related to academic research. If you type in, hey, what is the weather in San Francisco today? That information doesn't live in an academic paper. Consensus will not find you any relevant information. If you have a general purpose query, you should go to a general purpose search engine. Secondly, you've heard me starting to say this, you should not think of consensus just like a chatbot. And you should not try to just talk with it and have a conversation. If you say hi into consensus, we try to do a search of the literature for papers that use that word. We're not going to be a chatbot that just talks back to you. So don't come to consensus and try to have just a back and forth conversation. Come with a research topic and question in mind. And then lastly, to talk about just some of our strengths and weaknesses. What we do really well as a product is we help people do search and high-level analysis of research papers. What we're not built to do is go extremely deep into research papers. So if you have a deep corpus in your reference manager of papers yourself that you want to spend lots of time interrogating and going deep into, consensus probably isn't the best tool for you. It's a really, really great starting point of your research process, of a literature review process that we've seen a lot of success in helping people with. But there are other parts of the research process that there might be better tools than consensus. All right. That is most of the presentation. Happy to open up to questions if people have them to send into the chat. I'm sure there probably are some. There are probably some that I haven't gotten to, but please feel free to send any questions my way.
Now, please feel free to raise your questions. Maybe my colleagues and the students are typing their question. Oh, maybe I have one as a first. Because I found the filter, the consensus filter now is quite complicated, at least for me. Can you give us some tips how to use those filters, like the method, and also those journal domains? Can you give us some more deeper explanation?
Looks like we might be having a ton of traffic right now, so apologies for the intermittent troubles we have. But yes, thank you. Great question, Wallace. Get good search up here. We'll go. Does magnesium improve? All right. So the search filters function like most classic search filters that you're probably used to. So the way that you should think about it is, even though we're talking about more advanced things. So I'm going to start with the methods. Even though we're talking about more advanced things about a study than a date, it still works in that same way. So if you select one of these study designs, we will only return papers that match that study design prediction. So we have AI models that look at our corpus and will classify the types of studies that they are. And then when we run a search, we will only look for papers of that study design if you've selected it. Same goes for all of these more advanced details about a paper. So you can select again for what is the population of people in a study. So you can say, I only want studies with humans in them. And again, and I should be probably clear about this. This is definitely not relevant for all domains of research. This would be for somebody doing a biomedical type query where things like this matter. But for most queries, you can get some great results by filtering by different study designs. But I know your question was more than just that. So again, it's going to be a similar thing for this journal feature, but we have ratings of the journals that the papers come from. So this is just a classic citation, effectively the citation impact of a journal. So this is the SciMago journal quartile ranking, and we have them for most journals in our database. And if you select one of these options, we will only return you search results from our corpus that come from Q1 SciMago ranked journals. So again, think of it all like, I think everyone can probably understand how a date filter works. You say, hey, I only want papers from 2015 and beyond, and it will only look for papers with a published date like that. It works in the same way, just for other fields about a paper, and they all interact with one another. And what I mean by that is if I have this selected and I select this citation filter, now it will only look for papers with above 50 citations and that were from a Q1 journal. So we'll treat them together and it will be excluding anything that doesn't meet both of those criteria. Does that mostly address your question, Wallace?
Yeah, thank you, Eric.
Of
And
course.
yeah, I think one more question came from Maggie. What is the upload paper function in the
Yeah.
paper?
So I did have that as a part of the presentation. That is our brand new feature, and that is probably why we were having some issues with Ask Paper. I will try to have it work. No promises. We might be down with too much traffic right now, but Upload Paper is effectively an extension of our Ask Paper functionality that lets you upload PDFs and chat with those PDFs in consensus. So the Ask Paper function is for PDFs that we already have that were open access papers, but we also allow you to, if you have the PDF, upload that to consensus now. So start at the home screen just so everybody can see this. You come to your sidebar, you'll see this folder again. This is what we call our research hub. This is where you can access your saved lists of papers and searches, but now you can also access your uploaded papers. So if you come to this tab in the top right corner, you'll see this upload paper button. Click that. You'll be hit with a drop down from your own internal files. So I'm going to select this paper, start uploading that paper to consensus. It should appear as one of these paper tiles once it is uploaded. I'm really hoping this works. There's definitely a chance it's down. Yeah, there it is. Great. So one, you can view this page, and the paper will be uploaded into consensus. And we'll do a study snapshot, show you the abstract of that paper and the metadata associated with it. But more importantly, you'll be able to open this Ask Paper function. Great. And we're going to say you can start to ask questions of this paper, and then it will use an AI model to read the text and generate you a response where if it came from a specific part of the paper, it will also hopefully show you where from the paper that was found. So if you type in this question, were there any conflicts of interest? You'll see that it has extracted where the authors listed the conflicts of interest from that paper. Say, summarize this paper in a few sentences. It gives you a nice cohesive synthesis related to your question. Does it check whether the paper I am uploading, Maggie asked another question. Does it check whether the paper I'm uploading is actually the paper in the record? Good question. So yeah, this is directly ingesting what you are uploading to the product. So it is not trying to go match it with a paper in our database. This is now going to be this new record just for you personally. So it is not trying to match this. We just create an experience that looks like other papers in the product here. So we just ingest it and then we create this view experience. That doesn't mean that it's being matched to something else. So it will be the text that you uploaded. And then another member of the chat asked, is the upload a permanent action? Yes, but just for you. So that paper will exist in your research hub under this uploaded papers tab that you can then come back to. But this does not mean that now this paper is just in consensus for other people. It just means it will live here that you can then come back and re-reference. If for whatever reason you want to remove that paper, you can come here and click delete. Additionally, if you, I know you have the PDF if you're uploading it, but if you want to export all of the PDFs that you have collected in your research hub, you can also click this export functionality here from your research hub directly.
Okay, thank you, Eric. But I just want to remind our students and colleagues that as our publisher not allow us to upload any library subscribed content to any AI tool. So please try to avoid if you download like PDF from our library databases, try to avoid to do these actions. Yeah.
Apologies, Wall. So I was not aware.
Yeah,
Do
it's
not
fine.
use
But
for HKBU.
yeah, but yeah, if that is like something like not came from our databases, I'm not sure about that. But if the PDF is actually download from the library subscribed material, try to avoid this section. Yeah. Yeah. See if any more questions. If no, I just have one last comment to the consensus. Back to the filter, because in general, most of our library databases, we can limit the year, but now consensus can only limit the starting year of the publication. So see if you and your team can try some more advanced feature that limited the start and end years. Yeah.
That is get asked that quite frequently. We will be sure to log that as another feature request, and that will be coming.
Yeah, because I think the consensus matter is quite useful, especially sometimes I can show to the students the consensus actually change in different period.
Yeah,
So if you include that function with the start and end date, then like we can limit to different decades and tell the student, hey, the consensus is actually changing.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Using the filters along with the consensus meter is a really, really wonderful experience to see how science works, of seeing how it changes over time and seeing how it differs based on different study qualities and attributes. Is a really beautiful way to visualize science.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, if no more question, one last thing I want to mention. So let me share my screen now. Okay, so yeah, just want to share with you that actually in today 4 o'clock, I mean 4 p.m., a university librarian are going to provide some guidance, some tips on using different AI-powered research tools. So if you are available, feel free to register to the section this afternoon. Let me post the link. Yeah, so you can register to the section today, and we also have two more on the in tomorrow 4 p.m. and also Friday 4 p.m. We've invited a representative from Site.ai and also Scopus AI. Yeah, feel free to join us if you are available. Um, One last thing is actually create a generative AI LibGuides in our HKBU LibGuide. So let me again share with you the LibGuide. If we have any updates, news about AI support by the library, we'll post all this information in this LibGuide. So feel free to access. And let's see, no more question. So that'll be the end of this session. Thank you again, Eric, joining us today. Yeah, as Maggie said, fantastic demonstration, and we look forward to see any much more advanced feature came from the consensus team. Thank you
Really
so
appreciate
much.
everybody's time. Thank you for all the great questions and many more features on the way.